Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the last minute or late second live stream. Thank you so very much for tuning in to my super chat. I can't do this without you, ladies and gentlemen. I don't have $20 million in venture capital funding like some people. I do appreciate your support. Let's get started. A lot of news today, and I appreciate you tuning in to this last minute live stream. I wasn't going to do one, but I wanted to do a live stream on Twitter. And Elon Musk, hello, stop, listen, think. Eric, hello, everyone. Let's get started with Twitter will pay $800 million to settle a class action suit. The 2016 lawsuit claimed executives misled investors about the company's growth. They already had to pay almost $1 billion to settle a class action lawsuit. Twitter has agreed to pay $809.5 million to settle a class action suit filed by shareholders in 2016. Investors allege that Twitter masked the company's slowing growth while executives, including former CEO and the co-founders, including Jack Dorsey, sold stock for hundreds of millions of dollars in insider profits. So they were deceiving investors. They've been engaged in deceptive practices for years. The plaintiff said Twitter was tracking daily active users as the key metric for engagement in early 2015, but it was still reporting monthly active user numbers. The daily active user measurement indicated engagement was dropping or staying flat, according to the lawsuit, which is true, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, if you look at Twitter, it's not a growing platform, and it's real. And if you look at Twitter, the news in terms of politics is it's really a platform based on politics. So the news is really, really driven by less than a couple of hundred accounts. I mean, you have maybe like 2-3, maybe a maximum 200 to 300 accounts on Twitter that really drive the news. That's really it. And half of the accounts on the left, for example, are just either journalists pretending to be journalists or activists, or people who just don't like conservatives that are using fake profiles just to like insult or demean or try to disparage political adversaries. That's really it. That's what Twitter is about. It's definitely not a global comments. Has nothing to do with an exchange of ideas and a forum to debate or discuss or encourage dialogue about different ideas. It's a place where people can argue, and it's a place where the platform itself is tailored towards one political side. So any conservative joke or viewpoint that is deemed harmful will be suspended or silenced. The account will be suspended and silenced. And I mean, that's the thing. You don't have conservatives running Twitter. You have people on the far left or left. So everybody here, hello, Eric again. Stop, listen, think. Maximilian, hello. Anthony, hello. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. There's a last second live stream I wanted to do because I wanted to talk about this. It's really interesting. I'll do a live stream tomorrow on this at around 7 p.m. or 8 p.m. Pacific. But Twitter says the proposed settlement, which a court has yet to approve, quote, resolves all claims asserted against Twitter and other named defendants without any admission, concession, or finding of any fault. Yeah, but they spend close to $1 billion. Of course they admit. See, this is before Elon Musk wanted to buy the platform. Okay? They're losing money. Their average monetizable daily active users, nobody really knows how many daily active users there are. Okay? And there has to be more than 5% of the platform that is like composed of bots and fake accounts. There has to be. Because they wouldn't have paid $800 million if they were telling the truth. Okay? If they're telling the truth, There's no reason for them to have paid $800 million. That's just it. I mean, if they're telling the truth, there's just really no reason for them to pay that much money. Furthermore, you have to ask yourself, like, who really goes on Twitter nowadays? Like, um, is it a platform that is growing? Like, who goes on Twitter because it's enjoyable? People go on Twitter primarily because they want to argue, or they want to maybe obtain news stories or read the news, maybe interact with people, but the interaction almost always ends with arguing. So let's just let's read this again. Twitter will pay $809 million to settle a class action securities lawsuit. It misled investors about user engagement. The platform, you have a certain amount of characters. It's a platform designed for people to for people not to see the context of what's being written. Okay, um, you can't really know the context or get the context of what's being tweeted out oftentimes, because a tweet is nothing but fleeting emotion. It's like a fleeting, momentary emotion that people tweet out. And it's oftentimes, most tweets are done or are written with the intent to get as many retweets as possible. So the objective isn't truth or communication. Oh Lord, are you serious? Really? Unbelievable. Sorry about this. Sorry about the stream, ladies and gentlemen. I have no clue why this is I have no clue why this always happens. Like, no understanding of why this happens. Sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. If you get kicked off, please go ahead and log back on. Indy Joy, hello. So, ladies and gentlemen, Twitter is just like a pretty much a dystopian nightmare that serves as an echo chamber for one political party. That's it. The lawsuit, and they already paid close to $1 billion. They're paying fines left and right, by the way, over the years. The only thing that they have is that they're extremely important to one political side. So journalists at mainstream publications know that Twitter is going to amplify left-leaning viewpoints or the predominant mainstream liberal viewpoint on everything, which is why there were caution and warning labels, or or disclaimers next to Trump's tweets. Warning, caution. Trump said something that isn't true. And they don't have that. Like when BuzzFeed published the Steele dossier, interestingly enough, it wasn't against Twitter guidelines. So, interestingly enough, it's when you're publishing information on Twitter that is inaccurate and false, but it benefits the Democratic Party, that's never deemed as harmful or against policies. Of course, if the same is true, if you publish information that Twitter finds harmful, it's almost certainly going to be linked to something detrimental to the Democratic Party. So, Twitter plans to take a third quarter charge for the settlement that still needs. Okay, the lawsuit alleged Twitter misled investors about a level of engagement by users on the social media site. Twitter has agreed to pay more than $800 million to settle a class action securities lawsuit over allegations it misled investors about the level of engagement by users on the social media site. The binding agreement to pay $809.5 million will need final approval from the United States District. They paid that money. I'm almost certain they paid that money. I believe the original lawsuit filed by Twitter shareholders in 2016, accused Jack Dorsey, Twitter's co-founder, and others, including the former CEO, of concealing facts about the site's slowing user growth, while they sold their personal stock holdings for hundreds of millions of dollars in insider profits. That should be criminal. That shouldn't just be a, like, a fine that you could pay through the company. That's like almost a should be a criminal act. But Reuters reported the complaint said Twitter discontinued reporting timeline views in late 2014 and concealed user engagement that was stagnating or declining by reporting vague descriptions of user metrics. So you have a situation where they're just lying through their teeth about how important the platform is. They're just lying through their teeth. It's not a platform that's growing. It's a platform that's dwindling, but it really is an extension of one political party. That's why, I mean, why do you think that Twitter employees were so upset Elon Musk? Like, what did Elon Musk do other than promise that the platform would be a platform that allows free speech? Okay? They don't want freedom of speech because they don't want opinions that they find revolting. See, they don't want opinions or viewpoints that they would then have to counter with a rebuttal. Oftentimes, Democrats or people on the left don't like to actually debate. They'll redefine words, or these are the two tactics of a great many people on the left. They will redefine words, okay, or they'll demand censorship. They'll redefine words or demand censorship, or they will act in a disingenuous, duplicitous, hypocritical manner. That's the third. That's the third. That's the third tactic. It's, oh well, you know what? This viewpoint is very harmful. Okay, and you can get the same kind of vantage point from a conservative perspective, or no, from a liberal perspective. So, for example, if uh, Brett Kavanaugh is eating at a steakhouse in D.C. and he's forced out because people at the steakhouse, are forcing him out. Which, by the way, that steakhouse should have called the police. Can't do that. You can't just, I mean, and then the White House press secretary is like, oh, yeah, that's called democracy. It's like, no, it's not. It's intimidation. That's the epitome of intimidation. But then if the reverse takes place, if you have conservatives that force out somebody who's a Democrat or on the left, oh my God, or if they show up someplace, oh my God. Oh my God. See, they don't like the same treatment. They don't like they don't like reciprocal behavior. They're the ones who want to intimidate because they think they're on the side of morality and justice, but they don't want to feel any intimidation on their side. So, and again, there shouldn't be, this never happened. No one ever intimidated Antonin Scalia or Sandra Day O'Connor or any Supreme Court justice, 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago. They weren't kicked out of DC restaurants. That's not what took place years back. You could have, politics was not everywhere. It wasn't a part of every single element of life. And that's unfortunately what Twitter has helped turn politics into. Twitter basically turned politics into an omnipresent thing. Everything now is infused with some kind of political angle. And that is it's such a bad thing for society. It's such a bad thing for life. You shouldn't You shouldn't feel emboldened to go up to a politician, blue or red, or even like there's no policy. For example, like the whole platform is just like going and snark and anger and like venting frustration. That's it. It's just, there's just no reason to be on Twitter. It's a place where you're just going to argue with people. That's it. And it's a place where your tweets or anything you said, especially if you're not like into politics, if you're just like a regular person and you're not like, somebody could take a tweet that you wrote 10 years ago, 5 years ago, and you could lose your job. Okay? You could lose your job. And that's happened before. Like, there have been many examples. One example I could never understand. This is like what usually happens is you'll find a crusading journalist, and the journalist will find a tweet from 10 or 8 years ago. And then what'll take place is the journalist will write a hit piece. And that happened with one gentleman who was who actually raised a whole bunch of money for a children's charity. And then there was this crusading journalist that found an offensive tweet. And here's the thing, it's like, so what? So you wrote something offensive 8 years ago or 10 years ago. Why in this society would that mean you are now like some kind of tarnished human being? Okay, it was like a fleeting moment, but I mean, it's a way. Twitter is a way for people to turn on one another and to try to ruin each other's lives based on fleeting moments. Stop, listen, think. Thank you. And so then the beer company, that that's like did this promotion with this man who raised um $1 million for like a hospital, then parted ways with him. So raising $1 million for a hospital is not good enough to get a beer company who, by the way, wasn't raising any money for a hospital. Parted ways because of an offensive tweet written like a decade earlier. Then the journalist was actually fired from his job because I forgot. I could look it up right now. But then the journalist was actually fired from his job because the journalist himself wrote offensive tweets. So nobody. It's like the whole thing is stones being thrown by people who live in glass houses. I mean, it's really unbelievable. It's just really unbelievable. And here you have Musk. Twitter bot spat masks his real issue over $44 billion deal. So I will do a segment on this. The crypto Voyager. I will do a segment on that on the oil prices 150 Bitcoin 10K channel. But here, return of the bots. Elon Musk plan to buy Twitter is reportedly in jeopardy. Again, the social media company held a media call Thursday morning to talk about how it measures bots on the service, an issue that has become a significant factor in Musk's planned $44 billion acquisition. Twitter says bots are a small part of the company's total user base, less than 5%, but Musk believes the number is much higher. Well, they paid $800 million. They paid $800 million. Okay? Of course it's much higher. Ricardo, hello. DBK, hello. Of course it's much. Of course it's much higher than 5%. Okay, there's no way that it's just 5%. First of all, like I said, There are people who are so proud of the fact that they can hide behind a fake profile. Twitter should the platform should the platform should have found some way to limit nasty spats and disagreements and arguments and altercations between individuals, and especially between people who are actually like real individuals who don't hide behind a fake profile and then fake profiles. Because the whole point, it's just like Twitter is like this dysfunctional 8th grade class where you have different groups, um you have different factions and tribes on this like this dystopian cyber nightmare. And like, for example, if it's like Marjorie Taylor Greene or if it's AOC, they'll say something on Twitter and then you'll get immediately political adversaries trying to disparage and demean the person. It's like, that is not what you need. That's really not what you need. But again, it's like, I guess there's no way to really stop that. But there was always a way to make, like, they should never have censored Trump's tweets. They should never have banned Trump. I mean, the notion, he wasn't even accused in a court of law. In a court of law, he wasn't accused of anything. But of course, they just kicked him off the platform. And when BuzzFeed published the Steele dossier, for example, there weren't disclaimers saying, this is a compilation of gossip, hearsay, fabricated, false allegations. And you never, like, any false allegations leveled at Trump is okay. Any news story that is not accurate, that is false, that is fabricated. Like, for example, Madam Secretary Jake Sullivan, they retweeted a fake story that they helped fabricate. We learned that in the latest Steele dossier, in the Sussman trial. Like, what we learned from the Sussman trial was far more important than Sussman getting convicted. We learned that Clinton, according to Robbie Mook and Mark Elias, Clinton personally approved the dissemination of false stories, allegations to media. Again, could you imagine if Trump did that? Could you imagine if Trump, oh my God, what is going on? I can't stand this. I'm so sorry, ladies and gentlemen. Unbelievable. Ladies and gentlemen, sorry about that. If you get kicked off, please go ahead and get back on again. Like, what is the point? Like, the internet connection is fine, so I have no idea why that always happens. It's like right as the stream is gaining viewers, it just kicks off people. I have no clue why. No understanding of why. But, so sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. But, if you get kicked off, please go ahead and log back on. But here, the social media company, so it's significant. It's a significant disagreement because Musk said repeatedly that he might walk away from the purchase if Twitter doesn't do more to prove that bots are indeed a small problem that the company claims. By the way, Musk has them exactly where he wants them. He knows a great deal about technology, obviously. He probably knows more about Twitter than the company knows. I'm not even, that's not even hyperbole. Elon Musk probably knows more about Twitter and how they're deceiving investors. He's probably read the lawsuits. He probably read the $800 million class action lawsuit. And his lawyers probably did a lot of research on the $800 million settlement. And he knows what they're doing. They've been lying about the number of bots and, fabricated profiles for years. The issue with Twitter is that it's never really been. It was important for like a certain time period when in 2015 and 2016, when you had perhaps when the guidelines were a little less skewed against conservatives or against people who didn't follow the mainstream viewpoint on things or the mainstream liberal viewpoint on things. It was probably like that was probably the height in 2015 of its importance. And then maybe 2016, 2017, President Trump, his tweets, like he basically utilized Twitter, but not in the best way. I mean, what he needed to understand is that Twitter was a way. Twitter became a way for Democrats to create political momentum. You know, every time Trump tweeted, he fostered or created this indignation. The Democratic Party gains political momentum from indignation and outrage. They're outraged over everything. There's always something to be outraged over. So there's always something to be outraged over and indignant. And so it's like his Twitter profile ended up hurting him. It didn't work out well. Had he not had Twitter his last year in office and those meetings every week with certain government officials, my God. See, this is the thing. Trump should have known that anything he did in terms of trying to reach out to media, the media would twist and turn. Immediately twist and turn, especially his last year in office. They were going to use everything to their advantage. And Twitter became a liability for Trump. Okay. Anyway, it's a significant disagreement because Musk said repeatedly that he might walk away from the purchase if Twitter doesn't do more to prove that bots are indeed a small problem that the company claims. On Thursday afternoon, the thread was issued yet again when the Washington Post reported that the deal was in jeopardy because Musk's team didn't feel Twitter bot numbers were verifiable. That's true. He wants to spend less than $44 billion. That's the issue. He wants to spend less than $44 billion, and he should. It's probably overvalued like by 30 or 40%. He should probably be spending maybe $20 billion or $30 billion or $35 billion, not $44 billion. The number of spam bots on Twitter. Okay, so the company repeated a few things. The number of bots on Twitter is well below the 5%. Yeah, that's probably not true because they spent $800 million in losing a class action lawsuit. Then it calculates these bots using human review. What? Of thousands of random accounts each quarter. Human review of thousands of random accounts. That's how you calculate? Are you kidding me? Like Elon Musk's going to spend $44 billion on a human reviewer at Twitter? Are you kidding me? You have got to be kidding me. So $44 billion on a human reviewer at Twitter to find out, like, on a quote-unquote random sampling of a thousand accounts. Like, this is why statistics are utilized by so many people in government and in the tech industry and, by all the experts. It is so easy to manipulate people using these numbers. It is so easy. This is why Twitter paid almost $1 billion in fines. First of all, It's not thousands of random accounts. Okay, but you better believe it's not thousands of random accounts. Secondly, the human reviewer works for Twitter. So what is the human reviewer going to do? Go to his superior and say, "Oh, by the way, there's like 15% of these things. I found 15% that actually don't exist." Okay, then suddenly the human reviewer has no job anymore. What do you think they're going to do? They're going to be like, "Oh yeah, we found only 5%. See, boss." Then that's it. That's what they're. I mean, it's not like this isn't rocket science, but here. It uses some personal account data, IP addresses, and phone numbers to help determine if accounts are run by real people. Well, that also should show you that even if you hide behind a fake profile, it's pretty easy to find out who you are. Like there are people, especially on the left, they're so proud of themselves. Like, oh, I'm hiding behind this fake profile. Nobody can know who I am. And it's like, well, that's not really the case. Twitter knows who you are. Twitter knows who you are. You can use. They know what the cell phone you're using, or they know the computer you're using, the IP address, and the data you're in. They probably even know, the location too. You can get that from all that information. So if you're on Twitter, like they'll know exactly where you're tweeting from, uh, based on the cell phone or the computer. And even if you go ahead and start an email account that you never use, it's like if once you're on the internet, you could be tracked. And that's the whole thing with Twitter also, is like wanting to disparage and demean people and get away with it because you hide behind a fake profile. That's that's unfortunately what Twitter is all about. It's about just trying to demean people, and doing so. Marco, hello. DVK, hello. It's it's it, they don't really they don't really understand that, um yeah, you're not anonymous on Twitter. Also, there's no point to it. Like in 10 years, in 10 years people are not going to be going on Twitter. Okay? And probably sooner than that. So, in 10 years, I mean, Elon Musk wants Twitter because it is a tool used, right now, it's a tool used by traditional media and the Democratic Party and organizations throughout the world. It's a tool to further a political narrative. It's a tool to further political objectives. And it's also a very good way for the establishment in Washington, D.C., or in media, or the prevailing mentality, or the liberal establishment in media and politics throughout the world. It's a good way for the liberal establishment in media and politics throughout the world to silence any debate, any discussion, to go after political opponents, and basically disparage people like Elon Musk. So it's a way for it's just a way for them to say, okay, we don't like this person. They did it with Trump. They did it with Trump. Paul Bartlett, thank you, sir. To my super chat, thank you. Paul, thank you so much. Greatly appreciated, as always. I can't do these live streams without you, ladies and gentlemen, and I do appreciate your support, Paul, always, and your kind words, Paul. Thank you so very much. Thank you so very, very, very much, Paul. I hope all is well in Australia. Thank you so very much, Paul Bartlett. Greatly, greatly appreciated. Thank you, Paul. And to my super chat, thank you. I can't do this without you, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, so there's really no, like, I got off Twitter in 2018. Was it 2018? Actually, the beginning of 2019, I think. Yeah, it's the beginning of 2019. So no, late 2018. It was the best thing I ever did. It's a complete and utter waste of time. It is the biggest waste of time, Paul. Thank you again. It is the biggest waste of time. When you are tweeting and you are getting, you know, petulant statements, negative, derogatory, petulant, malicious statements, messages that are, inaccurate, and then you're just okay, you don't want to respond, but then you kind of almost have to, or you want to, you're wasting time. You'd be better served like staring at a flower, or taking a deep breath of air, or looking up at the sky, not at the sun, but just like, taking a deep breath, and smelling the roses, and just relaxing, watching TV for a second, reading a book, um stretching, working out, whatever. It is the biggest. No one's going to care. That's the thing also. It's like on social media, it is, you are actually wasting life. You're wasting life. Life is precious. Paul, thank you again. Life is precious. You don't have a lot of time on this earth. You don't have a lot of time on this earth. And it's like, I mean, YouTube is different. YouTube is like, they say, like social media. No, I mean, like, YouTube is video on demand. Okay. Um, and nobody really gets like the chat on this like live stream. Nobody gets into arguments on my live stream. If there's somebody that, like, I kick out the person. I don't have, like, Luke and Eric were amazing moderators, but I don't have any moderators anymore. But like, I don't even, nobody really even gets into arguments at all. I have like the live streams, and the chat on the live streams is like, it almost always runs perfectly, like 100% smoothly, no problems at all. Okay. Um. So, like, there's really no there are really no problems at all. It's really the opposite of what goes on Twitter or Facebook. Facebook is like just as bad. The only thing with Facebook, the only redeeming quality, is that you could potentially find and, like, reconnect with people people important to you that you haven't seen in, years and years and years, so you can reconnect with them. But other than that, there's no point to Facebook either. Facebook's full of, just meaningless arguments. And that's the thing, like with social media gives you, like Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, it gives you the opportunity to act in a manner you wouldn't act in. You wouldn't be, it gives you, unfortunately, it gives certain people an opportunity to behave in a manner they wouldn't behave. They wouldn't act like in real life. So you have like a whole bunch of keyboard warriors. You know, you it's just a waste of time. It's a complete and utter waste of time. And you're not actually really getting you're really not getting the, like, what life is really about. It could be better served just opening up a newspaper and just, in a relaxing manner, just like people used to do for decades and decades, for decades, hundreds of years, opening up a newspaper, or, you know, and just in a casual manner reading. You'd be better served just with that. Diane Stewart, hello! Diane, thank you so very much for tuning in. I hope all is well. Hope you're doing well, Diane. Thank you so much. Thank you for your support. Um, Thank you so much, Diane. Hope you're having a great Friday evening. Paul, thank you again, Paul. Paul and Diane, I can't do this without you, ladies and gentlemen. To my super chat. I don't have $20 million in venture capital funding like some people who will remain nameless. We won't talk about them unless we have to. But these are the people, by the way, who claim to go up against the system, but they're getting tens of millions of dollars from the system, which is fine. But see, that venture capital funding is totally fine. If I got $20 million in venture capital funding, I wouldn't mind, as long as I could be myself. But that's the problem. They're running. They actually have to adhere to a script, and they get the money. They adhere to a script, and it's vote blue no matter who. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter if Bernie Sanders is cheated. Just go ahead and vote for the Democrat. And Twitter also is a part of that. It's like this machine. If you don't have Twitter, if you don't have MSNBC, CNN, New York Times, all of these publications, where's the Democratic Party? Like, does it even exist? Diane, thank you again. So kind of you, Diane Stewart. Thank you. Exactly, Eric. Reed, hello. Diane and Paul, thank you so very, very much. Yeah, I mean, life is short. Life is short. And so when you're logging on, like Diane and Paul and everybody here, Eric, everybody here, when you're logging on to Twitter or to Facebook, and then you get on, and it's like, you read messages, you're looking at 5 minutes wasted. Just 5 minutes wasted. 5 minutes of life. You could be telling, you know, family members you love them. You could be doing you could be, I don't even know, just you could be telling somebody how much you care about them. But that's 5 minutes right there. You're logging on and you're seeing messages, okay? And then you see a message you don't like. That 5 minutes can easily turn into an hour. And that's a conservative estimate. That's a concern. And then you could say things you don't mean. You could say things you later regret. And it's all digital now. It's all for this, like, cyber. You're now wedded to this cyber nightmare. So you've now said things you don't mean, but that can be used against you forever. Okay. And so, um, I mean, think about that for a second. Thank you again, Diane and Paul. Thank you so very much. Think about how much life is wasted. Think about how much life is wasted. Think about that. I mean, YouTube is different because it's video on demand. Look, in the 80s, if I'm putting, if let's say it was a VHS, let's say a VHS, you put in a VHS tape of H.A. Goodman or of anyone that you like on YouTube. There's not that much of a difference between a VHS tape and and you watching right now, this channel. Okay, one is on the YouTube platform and it's on your phone or your computer. The other is you need a VHS player, but you're still watching a video. You're still watching television. Okay, you can watch this on television and it's the same, it's the same thing. Like, if you're on Twitter or Instagram or Facebook or any social media platform, Truth Social, whatever, you're going into a cyber reality. It's like Tron. Remember the movie Tron? Who remembers the movie Tron, ladies and gentlemen? 80s movie, where the computer programmer is stuck in the video game he created. Okay? You're actually stuck in a cyber nightmare. You have to actually venture in. It's like, when a vampire has to ask you to to enter your home, or else a vampire can't enter your home. You have to actually invite the vampire in. But it's like the reverse. You invite yourself into this dystopian nightmare, and you're stuck. You're stuck in this dystopian nightmare. And anyone on the planet, by the way, like you could get into a disagreement with anyone on the planet. That's also something that is not fun. That's also something that isn't fun. There used to be a time in human history when there used to be a time in human history when to meet somebody, you know, in another time zone, you'd have to actually fly there and get to know a person and then discuss politics. Well, actually, you wouldn't even discuss politics. It wouldn't even be important to you. But here with Twitter, you can argue with anyone on the planet instantaneously. It's the worst. It's like if the devil made a social media platform and the devil was like, "Oh, let's see. How can I create as much angst, frustration, anger, resentment, discontent, malicious sentiment, petulant behavior as possible? How can I harness every negative quality, every negative human emotion within a platform where everyone loses context and where stupid people and their opinions are amplified?" Oh, Twitter. Yes. Yes. Twitter. And so if Satan made a platform, it would be Twitter. Because like every negative emotion, think about that for a second. Every single negative emotion that you can feel is amplified. It's amplified on Twitter. Okay? And this is by the way the same people who are petrified of misinformation. That's all you get on Twitter because the it's so easy to engage in a lie by omission via social media. So social media is like tailor-made to give you half of a story or 1/3 of a story or a quarter of a story while ignoring the rest of the story. You know, that's what I mean. And then it's also like you get people who you get people who truth is not the goal of most people on social media. Truth is definitely not. It's harnessing emotion. So this is a propaganda tool. So propaganda is about emotion primarily. It's not about information. It's about emotion. People harness. Um, they go ahead and they harness emotion and they amplify emotion and they, you know, like the Democrats do this very well. They can harness and amplify indignation and use it as political momentum. Read, thank you. So that's the thing. Like they gain so much. Um, there's so much tribalism on Twitter. I mean, you could see it all the time. There's just so much. There's so many like factions. There's so many different groups. And I mean, you have to understand, there are people, and I remember seeing this when I was on the left. There are people who got into arguments with one another over their Medicare for All plans. Like, your Medicare for All plan isn't as good as mine, so therefore our friendship is over. It's like, listen, both of you, it ain't ever going to happen. Democrats are using it just to funnel votes back into the Democratic Party. People are losing friendships over policies that Democrats have no intention of ever implementing. So I mean, it's like lunacy. It's absolute lunacy. And then like you can have Democratic Congress people who make the most absurd allegations of Trump all the time. It's never ever against Twitter policies. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much, Diane. Thank you so very much, Paul. I'm going to head out now. I just wanted to do this quick late evening segment. I will be back, Diane, Paul, everyone here. Tomorrow, I should have a live stream tomorrow by around 8 p.m., probably 7 p.m. So be here like 7:30, 8 p.m. I'm going to try to do it a little earlier tomorrow, probably around 7:30 p.m. Pacific. So be here tomorrow, everybody. 7:30, 8 p.m. Pacific, probably 8 p.m. Pacific. And please subscribe to the Nuclear Confrontation and the Oil Prices 150 channel. And ladies and gentlemen, thanks so much, everybody. God bless. Diane and Paul, thank you so much. To my super chat, thank you. I will see you very, very soon, everybody. See you tomorrow. Be here at like